Now I'm going to throw a pot with the pattern on the inside, and then I'm going to bring the pot around the pattern rather than it being on the exterior. So in order to do this, you want to be throwing off the hump. And then I'm going to open it up and flatten it out into a disc. And anytime you're opening a pot while you're throwing on the hump, when you compress down on the inside, in order to avoid S-cracks, you're not only compressing down, but if you notice I'm compressing in with my ring finger way down here. And what's happening is you're compressing this way and you're compressing down. So as I squeeze in, it gives resistance to me pushing down, and that way I get full compression. And it also separates the pot off of the hump a little bit more. So now I'm going to pull this kind of out into a, kind of a bowl kind of shape, and then I'm going to work it till it's really even. You want this pot to be really even. You don't want throwing lines in it. If you get the throwing lines in there, they're probably going to create little weak spots, and you'll see in just a second why it's important that you don't have those. Now what I'm going to do is, rather than throwing it out into a flat surface, I'm going to stretch it down into a flat plane. Stretching it down gives it a little bit more strength. It has a little more architecture if you bend it down with a rib versus if you pull it out. What I'm doing is I'm just compressing down into a flat, very flat disc. You want it to be pretty clean too, and by doing that with a rib, you don't add a whole bunch of water to it. Water is essentially going to loosen up the clay as well. So rather than adding lots and lots of water to it, I'm just using the rib, which is actually taking water off at the same time compressing downward. I then take a layer of this slip on this hake brush, real gently, and then it's the same thing on your pattern. Full nice clean strokes, and then just go in and even it out a little bit, and then complete that from the other side. Now I'm going to use my heat gun again. I'm going to hold it on the flat disc of clay in order to get this to the same consistency as that paper is going toward. I can pick it up, and here I'm going to just lay it directly down on top of the disc that I threw. Now you take your rib. Once again, the paper's translucent once it gets wet. Holding your hand underneath the rim of the disc, or underneath the disc from the outside, you're going to want to rib outward from the middle. Don't rib from the outside in, or you'll just create a big mess. And then always work the outside of the pot last. You want to work that a little bit more because it tends to not stick as well out there. And then finally, on anything that you make that's flat, or where the pattern's on the inside, always rib the middle really well, because there tends to be, on almost every pot you make, there's a little tiny divot right in the middle. So now I'll lift from this side so I can look at it while I'm lifting. And just like a little earlier, see there's that little dot I was talking about, because the middle of the pot it has like a little divot there. So I can set it back down as long as I haven't lifted it all the way off. I'm going to set it back down. I'm going to rib that spot. I'm actually going to go back and re-rib this outer wall here. And then we'll lift up again and see how that worked. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull the pot up around the pattern. Takes a fair amount of water on your hand. So rather than just trying to get, how are you going to get water under there, right? So rather than trying to put water under like this, I'm going to get my hand wet. I'm going to put my hand under the pot and squeeze the water onto my hand, and my hand will then kind of deliver the water underneath. And once I feel like it's really wet, I'll set the sponge down, and I'm slowly going to start pulling up and just angling. Watch as my hands just angle inward as I lift. And there is something to this. There's something, I'm not only leaning up, I'm also lifting slightly, and what that does is it prevents that flat spot from appearing on the inside.